Okay. So this is it. This is the share before Shavuos. We'll have to decide if there'll be a share next Wednesday night. The Isru Chag Shavuos. I hope we'll be able to. Okay. I really have one thing to say, but sometimes it takes a few minutes to say it. One point that I want to say to go into Shavuos with, I think could be valuable for me, and maybe if I share it, some of you will join me in this particular journey. You know, we were talking last week about the mitzvah to have meat and wine by the Yontif Suda, to have festive meals. And we talked about it in the context of whatever we were talking about last week. But it's interesting that there are Mefarshim that say of just a very simple thing, and that is that the reason that we serve amazing meals on Yontif is to show Hashem how happy we are to receive the Torah. That's a very profound thing. It's simple, but it's very deep. And it gives us a little bit of a direction in the parts of Yontif that aren't directly davening or learning, you know, the festivities of Yontif. That's showing how happy I am with Yontif. And it's not just true about the meals, putting on Yontif clothing. And appreciating the time off of Yontif. It's time on, but it's also time off. You know, appreciating the Yontif spirit of Yontif. All of that is acting in a way of a simcha, of a sudais, of Yontif, because I want to show HaKadosh Baruch Hu how happy I am with His Torah. And I just wanted you to know what we're responding to. Okay, I've said this over before, but I want to say this again because we can't go a year without saying this Orach Chaim HaKadosh. That's really how we go into Shavuos. Today was Rosh Chodesh Sivan. Rosh Chodesh Sivan is the day that Klal Yisrael arrived at Har Sinai. And the way that the Pasuk describes the arrival of Klal Yisrael at Har Sinai is, it says in Parshas Yisro, it was in the 3rd month, and Klal Yisrael came to Har Sinai. They left Refidim, and they arrived at Sinai. And the Orach Chaim HaKadosh asked if that's in the wrong order. Why are you telling me where you got to before you telling me where you were coming from? Right? You don't do that when you're talking. You don't say, we got to place B. Oh, by the way, we were coming from A. It's not the way we talk. So why does the Torah change the order? And the Orach Chaim HaKadosh says, it's just unbelievable to see. Every time I read it this morning with the Bachram in Yeshiva, every time I read it, I can't believe it all over again. He says that it's based on the concept of ha'ahava mekalkelas es hashura, that sometimes love could be so overpowering that you skip over like the regular normal Seder. And he says from the time that the world was created, HaKadosh Baruch Hu and the world were waiting for this moment for Klal Yisrael to arrive at Har Sinai. And when they finally arrived at Har Sinai, there was such a sense in the bria of joy that the Torah couldn't wait around saying like, oh, we used to be here and then we moved. No, they arrived at Har Sinai. They are here. There was like this excitement. You understand this excitement is not like in the papers. It's wired into the Torah. It's unbelievable. Wired into the Torah. The order of 2 psukim in the Torah, it doesn't get holier and more important than that. Is that HaKadosh Baruch Hu was excited that we arrived at Har Sinai. This morning when I was talking to the Bachram, I was envisioning the like the chassan walking down to the badekin, and the kala having not seen her chassan for the past week, waiting to get married. This is the moment. Zeh hayom kivinu lai. Everything led up to this moment, and she's hanging on to her mother and her future mother-in-law, and she's just jumping out of her seat from excitement as he comes closer. That was the mashal in my mind when I was describing. They're here. Klal Yisrael arrived at Hasina. The chassan is coming. That's the joy. So when we talk about that, when Shavuos comes, we show that we're so happy to have received the Torah. You understand what we are responding to. Okay? I said to the boys that, could you just imagine what would have happened if that Kala is jumping, she's radiant. They could have turned off the lights in the room. It would have been just as lit up, just from the radiance of her excitement and joy. And her husband, her soon-to-be husband, walks down to her for the badekin, and he's on his phone, and he's like, hey, how you doing? Could you imagine? Can you imagine a disappointment like that? HaKadosh Baruch Hu, today, and leading up, soon the Shlosh Yisimi HaKabbalah, and then leading up to Yantif, is just going out like Ha'ava Mekalkelas is Ashura. If you can even say that about HaKadosh Baruch Hu. There's a palpable excitement. I want you. I want to share my Torah with you. I want to give you everything that I have, that I created the world with. I want you to have it. And that he's saying that to us. Now, how are we responding to that? I think that's really the avodah of Shavuos. And I think about this, that we're losing an opportunity a little bit in the way that we go into Shavuos. As we get older and as we have more and more Shavuoses, it happens. Perhaps it's a harder Nisayan to pass, but we have to be very careful when Shavuos becomes another Shavuos. That's one challenge. When it's just like, oh, it's Shavuos again. Yep, here again. I know how Shavuos goes. I have my milchig meal, my fleishig meal. I do my thing, I have my routine. I know how Shavuos goes. Instead of this sense of wonder and awe. And I was thinking about two challenges. One of them, I don't know what the solution is. Maybe you do. And that one is, this is a little bit of really is a nisayan, I think, for women. And that is that almost everything that I described we do to show how excited we are is very hard work for the women. I'm talking so excitedly about the meals. I haven't cooked a thing for Shavuos, I'll be honest with you. Not a thing. I'm sure I'm the only one in the room that can say that, so, even the clothing, having new clothing, I'm sure that I'm sure there are other people in this room or on this Zoom who are thinking oh, don't even remind me about the clothing. I ordered clothing for my daughter and she didn't like it again, and everything's it's not easy. It's not oh, Yantif is coming, new clothing, yummy sudas. That's not for you. That's not the feeling. It's oh, Yantif is coming, the sudas, the clothing. It's a burden, and I think that it's something to think about. I know I've discussed this before, but it continues to be a concern to me. And I know that tzidkaniyos of previous generations have been able to somehow find that joy and that excitement in the Yantif, even though they were working so hard. But I think that it's part of the challenge, and if I don't speak it out, that doesn't make it go away. If I ignore it, that doesn't mean that it's not there. That is part of the challenge. There is a certain kind of weight of responsibility. I think it's that more than anything. A certain weight of responsibility of running a home for Yantif. No? That's, it's going to be, Isru Chag, Matzi Yantif, I'm going to be tired. It's exhausting. And I think it's kedai to think about that before. I wish I had, okay, here's my 3-pronged plan, how you can just get through it, and it'll just be so enjoyable, besides for like go to a hotel for Shavuos, maybe that's the answer. But even that, ask the people that go, even that. First of all, you have to bring enough clothing, so every single time you leave your hotel room, you're wearing something different, and then your children, and you lose your children, and okay, fine, that doesn't help either. So, but there's a challenge here, and it's an important. Men have their challenges also on Yantif. There is a challenge as well, for the men on Yantif, but for women, I think this is a challenge that it's a little bit like the irony that we always talk about Pesach time, that it's like Zman Cheruseinu, but the women are working so hard, right? That issue. When Shavuos comes, the whole point of the meals, the basar, the yayin, everything, is to show how excited I am. The responsibility I feel, correct me if I'm wrong, could mute that a little bit. Like excited would be if somebody else served the meal. That would be excited. For me, yeah, I guess it's good food. My wife has this thing that when she makes the food, she doesn't have so much cheshik for it. She likes eating, you have that also? She likes eating food that other people made. Oh wow. Here I thought she was crazy. Oh wow, I have to go, she's probably on, but I have to go home and apologize to her. Wow. She's going to tell me, that's why I send you out every Wednesday night. So that's a hard thing, like she made this entire yantif, and she's going to be like, oh yeah, that food, yeah. I guess maybe I'll have a little, Maybe you should trade. We should send each other yantif. It'll be like Shalach Manas, Everyone loves that Shabbos after Purim when you're eating everyone else's food, right? We love that, Maybe that's an eitzah. But I seriously think that the challenge is a real challenge. Perhaps each person needs to develop their own approach to it. How to find that geschmack, that expression of the joy. And maybe it's sometimes from the nachas, from being with family, from being with people that we're close to, that we could have a certain sense of like spending yantif with the people that we love. Maybe that's some, part of it. But I think I think that this is a challenge. When we go through our 2 days of Yantif, I wish I knew a way better. Maybe I shouldn't be so honest, but I wish I knew a way better to help from women with families finish Yantif saying, wow, that was great. That was just great. I can't wait for the next Yantif. I wish there was a way, and I don't think it's so easy. I think there is a challenge. I think it's a madrega to be able to get there, to be able to have that. Like, that was just incredible. I don't know if it's related to the next challenge that I want to talk about, and I'm saying this challenge without giving any solutions for it. But I think that it's something, you're in a better position to understand the challenge, and you might be in a better position to come up with the solutions. But I think it is something to acknowledge, first of all, because I feel a little funny getting up and saying, yeah, the meal's amazing, and you're like, yeah, that's why I was up till 1 o'clock in the morning last night, thank you. So that I feel like it needs to be acknowledged to the Nashim Tzidkaniyos that are making all of this festivity and everything, but they also are part of the festivity. You're also a recipient of the Torah. You also deserve Yantif. You also need to feel that incredible sense that HaKadosh Baruch Hu wants me, and HaKadosh Baruch Hu wants to be close to me. And to try to figure out ways of appreciating it. Maybe when your family sings miras by the table, maybe you enjoy that, and you could just have a certain enjoyment in that. Maybe it's the shiurim that you go to, or something that you read. Maybe it's serving the meal and then sitting down and not getting up. Let everyone else handle the getting up. I'm sitting down and I'm enjoying the meal. Maybe send your friends shalach manas. I don't know, but maybe that thing. Like that cheesecake that you got from a friend, that becomes the beloved cheesecake, I don't know exactly what, but ways to focus on the Yantif as a festivity that expresses, I'm throwing a 2-day party because I am just so excited that HaKadosh Baruch Hu chose me. There's something else that's a challenge when it comes to that expression of excitement, and that is that life is not so simple. And it's very easy for, and I wonder sometimes, we've been doing this shir for a long time, and now the shir goes out, I don't know who's listening to it. And I imagine that sometimes, let's say there might be a girl that just came home from seminary listening to a shir, maybe she found it somewhere, and she's listening to a shir about Shavuos, and I'm saying, yeah, over the years we changed. And she's like, I don't know what he's talking about. Shavuos is amazing. I love Shavuos. It's the day we got the Torah. How could you not love Shavuos? It's so exciting. We were there once, remember? And we're still from today. I'm not saying that we were there once and now we don't care about it. We're still devoted, and we're still erlich, and we're still focused, and we still want it. But the years do make it a little harder to have that simple, wide-eyed, big smile. Shavuos is coming. It's not that simple anymore. Because HaKadosh Baruch Hu has challenges for us. I don't believe that there's a single person, that spends a few Shavuoses, post-seminary, that doesn't have their list of experiences and challenges that make us a little exhausted, sometimes a little confused, sometimes a little overwhelmed, sometimes a little mixed feelings, sometimes a sense of, I don't really want to think about what all my dreams were in terms of Kabbalah Satira, because I don't know if I realized all my dreams. As you get older, there's more of opportunity for disappointment. But Yantif is coming. It's relentless. It's coming. It's Rosh Chodesh Siva. It's Beis Siva now. And we need an approach for this because HaKadosh Baruch Hu hasn't changed. HaKadosh Baruch Hu is still that Kala jumping in her seat, waiting for us, wanting us. But we've kind of gotten a little old. I don't mean chas v'shalom old years-wise. I mean like in our hearts, we're like, yeah, it's Shavuos again. I'm going to go to the shir. Sonnenschein's going to talk about it. Hashem is so excited. It's nice. I guess I'll go to the shir. It's nice, Okay, now I'll go home. What do I have left to make for Shavuos? And I'm searching for a derech to be able to discover some of that innocent excitement for the relationship with HaKadosh Baruch Hu without expecting of ourselves that we're going to go back in time and erase history. That means in our lives, with all of the journeys that our lives have taken us on, to be able to discover a certain youthful, innocent purity in just bonding with HaKadosh Baruch Hu, receiving the Torah on Shavuos.
Like on Pesach and Rosh Hashanah, there's something that kind of pulls me into the mood of the Yantiv. And it's like the spark, like I remember other feelings from before and I build on it. And I know what I'm supposed to do. I know I'm serving Hashem through Tefillah, and I know I'm serving Hashem through the Seder. But as you know, like we're not, our Seder isn't like, it's not different to me than Shabbos.
Mm-hmm.
That's how I just want to see it.
Yeah.
The shira that they provide that only cancels like organizing, so that's very nice because then there's something to look forward to and something like it's special. It's not the same.
Yeah, that's true. That's very important. It's true.
To Kiddush, and I bought Kiddush. Is that super?
Yeah, that's great. No, that's what it says in Shulchan Aruch. Yeah.
I mean the cheesecake, particularly
Yeah.
the neighbor.
Yeah. The stuff that everyone else made. Yeah. No, our block has it also, I'm told. I've never been up for it, but I'm told that there's a delicious Kiddush. the classic irony that the men always fetch about is that the good food goes to the women and the women don't even eat it. But when we men wake up Shavuos afternoon, it's all gone. The women eat it, the good food. I want to suggest a thought process. Maybe we can build a little bit from this thought process. I have some good mishalim for what I want to say, but they're a little bit sad mishalim. But it really brings out the point that I want to make, and the point is not sad. But I feel like there's a little bit of a journey that we can go on internally over the next few days to spark a certain level of excitement that maybe we haven't had recently. And that is because what happens is like this. Let me start with a less morbid mashal, just so that, okay? Let's say Yeshiva Katana is making a fundraiser. I hope everyone's working very hard. And let's say Yitzi Schwartz would decide, I just want to clarify to everyone that this is not the case, what I am saying. I don't want to get in trouble. Let's say they would decide they are raffling off a 2025 Tesla. Nice, right? And you win the Tesla. You never even thought of getting one. This is amazing, and it actually drives itself. It's a real thing. I hear that. And you start getting used to your Tesla. You never even saw yourself in a Tesla. But you start, getting used to it. And you it's amazing. You just tell it to park. It's just amazing. And all those spots that you were never able to fit into, the car just parks itself in them. It's amazing. With scientific precision. And all the other milas of a Tesla. And you're loving it. But it has certain, nothing's perfect. Over time, maybe you get into a little fender bender here, and the paint scratches there, and there's a glitch in the computer, and this feature doesn't work the way it's supposed to, and your phone doesn't connect to it 100%, and the things start to build up. You and your Tesla, it was like love at first sight when you first met your Tesla, but now, when you see it, you see the scratch on the side when you parked you decided to park instead of the car, and it scratched the person next to you, and then you sit down on the seat and there's a stain because of the time that you went in with the coffee, an uncovered coffee, and it spilled on the seat. I know it's this thing in my head. It's always karma, shalom, but bear with me, okay? And at a certain point in time, you're like, oh, this Tesla. You sound ridiculous to other people. But you're just like, this Tesla. Nothing but problems. The door is damaged. The computer doesn't work. The seat is stained. It's just nothing but problems. Hello. You have a free Tesla. It's free and it's yours. In fact, if it would get stolen, you'd be like, I can't survive without it would even happen to you. I can't survive without my Tesla. I can't believe it. I can't believe it. I'm driving this old car. I don't even know how to put the key in. I don't even know how to use these old cars. Who drives these things? Am I supposed to get a horse? Where's my Tesla? But what happens is that the little things build up until they become the whole thing that we identify with. This happens sometimes with people, too. We have people in our lives. This is, again, I have to use the morbid just to bring out the power of the mashal, so please forgive me, okay? I'm not morbid. I'm in a great mood. But, you could have a person, and as the years go on, this is annoying, that's frustrating, this is overwhelming. And when you think of that person, you just think like, all of the issues, just so many issues. And when the person walks into the room, you have to restrain yourself from rolling your eyes. And when you know the person's going to be around, you're like bracing yourself. But Lamaisa, fact of the matter is, that chas v'shalom, if that person would be taken from us, what would happen? We would be sad. But what would happen? That's what my point is not to be morbid. My point is to pull that apart. What would happen? What would happen is that we would realize that at the same time that each imperfection bothered us, we lost sight of the fact that we have this person. And that was precious to us. And that was ours. And we lost sight of that. And when that's gone, then that's all we could think about. And that's why you could have people by a levaya crying and being maspid someone that you know. Maybe you haven't had this experience, but I have sat in the audience by levayas watching a maspid thinking like, you hated the guy. But it's not true. It was annoyance. It was frustration. It was worry. But when the person is gone, I loved the guy. One more mashal, not any better than this one, but still kedai, okay? A guy once sat down with me and told me that he's very, 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 very frustrated about something about his wife's family, okay? He was like, something had happened and it made him realize something about his wife's family, and he was so upset. And it's not fair, and nobody told me about this, and I have to live with this, and it's just so horrible. And at a certain point, and I would never have done this if I didn't know how this conversation will go with someone I knew very well. At a certain point in the conversation, I said, I think you should get divorced. He was like, what? It was like not a thing. It was not, it was like, it was a crazy thing to say in that situation. I said, no, I think you should get divorced. He's like, what are you saying? I said, it sounds like you were gypped when you got married. I think you should end it. He's like, I'm not, that's crazy. I'm not ending it. I said, you know what? You don't want it. I said, you still want to be married to her? Yeah. You sure? You still want to be, you're 100% sure you still want to be married to her, even though her in-laws are insane. Her parents are insane. Yes. I love my wife. Fine, then decide to marry her. He's like, I don't understand you again. I'm already married to her. I say, yeah, I know, but when you got married, you didn't know about this. But now you know, and you're deciding to be married. Decide to marry her now. Go home and look at her and tell yourself, I'm choosing her. I know about her crazy parents. I am still choosing her because I love her. I don't know if it helped him, but it helped me a lot. Okay? HaKadosh Baruch Hu gave us a Torah. The Torah is our everything. It's everything. Imagine to yourself what would happen. This is impossible to happen, okay? But at least it's not another morbid mashal, okay? Imagine if we would all have nevuah, that HaKadosh Baruch Hu would be like, Klal Yisrael, it's been fun, I'm abolishing the Torah. You're good. Go ahead. Go ahead. There's a pizza shop right next to 7-Eleven. Get some pizza. No problem. I get emotional just thinking about, like, what would we do? What would be our life? What would be our standards? What would be our value system? How would we define nachas? How would we know right from wrong? What would be our mission? Who would we turn to when we're scared? We would have nothing. We would be nobody. we would just become a fleck of dust in this world of billions of people. Our pride, our background, the foundation that we stand on is what happened 3,337 years ago. And maybe we're tired now. Maybe our Tesla got dented because we've been through things, because we struggle with parnasa and with health and with chinuch and with shalom bayis and with all of the things that in this very long gullus we struggle with. And we could get lost in that. And it exhausts us. And then I come in here and sit down with you and say, Shavuos is coming, and you work hard because you're amazing people. So you work hard to try to muster up the energy for this Yantif. But this Yantif is our everything. It's the air that we breathe. It's kihem chayenu. This is our life. And with everything that we've gone through in our journey, and our resentments, and our struggles, and our conflicts, and all of the years of difficult things that we've gone through that make, perhaps in our minds, our relationship with Hashem more complex than it was the day we left seminary. But this hasn't changed. Our relationship with Hashem is still what defines us. It's still our essence. It's still who I am. And sometimes we need the opportunity to look past. These struggles are here now, and we work on them, and we work through them, and HaKadosh Baruch Hu should give us siyata d'shmaya to be able to accept b'simcha all of the different challenges that He gives us. But that's not what Shavuos is about. Shavuos is about what's behind all of that. It's our breath. It's the fact that we're alive. It's that we have an identity. It's that we have a HaKadosh Baruch Hu to struggle with our relationship with. It's that we have a Torah to wonder if we're as close to it as we used to be. It's that we have a lifestyle, a perspective, a history, a standard, a source of nachas. We have this unbelievable matana that, not because of us, not because of the Torah, because of us. It feels to us sometimes there's a dent here, this is that the years pass, we're exhausted, we're tired, we've been through things didn't pan out in terms of our homes or lives or avodas Hashem in the way that we fantasized it would when we were young and didn't know what was coming. And Baruch Hashem, we didn't. But that's all on the surface. That's all like the annoyances of that person that we forget that we love because we're so distracted from the annoyances. That's the struggles that we have because I'm upset about this and about that and about that, and I forget that the Iker thing itself I'm so joyful for and so grateful for and would never want. There's not a single person that we spend time with on Wednesday nights that would not absolutely fall apart if HaKadosh Baruch Hu said, it was only a 3,337-year plan. We're done. No, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, make it 38. Another year. Stay with us. Stay connected to us. We want it. We do want it. And that's why I gave the Mishalom that I gave, that perhaps as we get ready for Shavuos, we can try to find that place within us, that sense, that innocent, wanting, appreciating part of us that's just happy. Va'ani kirvas elokim li tov. I'm just happy that I have a relationship with HaKadosh Baruch Hu. I'm just happy that it's there. And I have my ups and downs. And yes, life is complex. And yes, things didn't always work out the way I intended it to. And yes, I daven to HaKadosh Baruch Hu that all of the tzaras that exist in the tzibur and in the yechidim should go away, and all the journeys that we went through, we should be able to reach Hatzlach and feel good about ourselves and feel accomplished. We daven for all of that, but for this Yontif, we're going deeper than that, and we're recognizing this is the breath that I breathe. This is everything. This is who I am. This is my identity. a special Gemara for me because the person who said that was Rabbi Yosef. And Rabbi Yosef said, so it's my namesake, so I'm very, he said, Ilav ha-yoyma, if not for that day of Kabbalah Satira, Kama Yosi Ika B'Shuka. There are a lot of Yosis in the marketplace. That day is what made us special. That day is what took us out of mediocrity and made us into a Mamleches Kohanim V'Gai Kadosh. It's not just about who we are today, but it's also the hope for the future. Because yes, we have our Nisyonos, but it's also that relationship with Hashem that's going to bring us back to Eretz Yisrael. It's that relationship with Hashem that's going to eventually bring V'shavu banim l'gvulam, that Klal Yisrael will come back. It's that relationship with Hashem that's going to eventually bring V'heshiv leiv avos al banim v'leiv banim al avosam, that the generations of Yidden should all return to Hashem. It's that relationship with Hashem that's going to provide us ultimately with a simcha that's beyond our comprehension. And it's not going to be a long time. And it's something that we need to remember to count down for. And over Yantif is a great time to daven. We say during Musaf on Yantif, we ask HaKadosh Baruch Hu, B'nei veischa kevatchila, build your home like it used to be built. V'chaynein mikdashcha al mechaynei, and reestablish your Beis HaMikdash on its foundations. V'hareinu b'vinyanai, and show us that building. V'samchenu b'sikunai, make us rejoice with its being fixed up. And eventually we will stand there. We, not our descendants, we will stand there outside the Beis HaMikdash on Yantif. We're going to have a Waterbury section, don't worry. We will stand there, and we will cry together tears of simcha. And we will watch the Kaihanim marching into the Beis HaMikdash to do the Avodah. And we will hear the unbelievable sounds of the Leviim singing with their instruments and their voices. And all of that promise, which in our heart of hearts we know is coming, all of that promise is Ilav HaYoyma, comes from that day. So we will rejoice when Shavuos comes. You have a challenge, because you have to rejoice between serving at Suda. But we'll rejoice when that day comes, because we recognize that despite whatever might be going on in our lives and the exhaustion and distraction of what's going on, despite all of that, we recognize that we are who we are because of that day. This is who we are, and our entire future depends on it. And if we have the schus to be able to thank Hashem for giving us the Torah, even though we've been in Gullus for 2,000 years, that we have the presence of mind, the clarity to be able to thank Hashem. It's been so many years since we had a Beis HaMikdash, but we don't forget. B'chol zos, shimcha lo shachachnu. We do not forget Hashem. And we could rejoice in Waterbury, Connecticut. We could rejoice that we have a Yantif of Shavuos. How much more will we rejoice when we're standing there by the Beis HaMikdash, and we will look at each other and we will say, we knew. We knew, and we counted on it, and we depended on it. And maybe people thought we were crazy. I'd like to hear what they have to say now. And Amir Hashem, we should be Zaycha to be able to dig deep within ourselves and find that genuine simcha, and to really, really, really celebrate the party of Shavuos, to celebrate Shavuos. And HaKadosh Baruch Hu should see our simcha. You know, when we're sad for HaKadosh Baruch Hu, like on Tisha B'Av, and we cry for the Shechina and for the Beis HaMikdash and for all the difficulties of Klal Yisrael, that's a big godless on our part that we do that. Klal Yisrael is incredible. We sit on the floor and we cry. It's 2,000 years, we don't care. We cry. But I wonder if that even pales in comparison to the godless of this nation, that we could turn away from all the things that distress us and be besimcha with Hashem. That's an even more powerful midah. They say it about our friends, right? To feel another person's pain sometimes is easier than to feel another person's joy. To be noisei ba'oil with tsar is easier than to be noisei ba'oil with simcha. And the same thing is true with Hashem. So we have an opportunity ahead to put aside the things in our lives that are difficult for us, that we struggle with, and to be all in to party Hashem's party, to rejoice with HaKadosh Baruch Hu, to sing His songs, to say His Hallel. And that's chus, HaKadosh Baruch Hu should respond by shining that light of simcha on every aspect of our personal lives and our communal life. And Be'ezer Hashem, it should become not just a hope and a tefillah, but a reality that the day will come. It's almost hard to imagine a heart so full of simcha without any of the tsar anymore. And we should be zeicha b'mheira v'yameinu. Yashakaya.
There's an old rock and roll song by the Hollies, I think, and the tagline, the refrain is, sometimes all I need is the air that I breathe and to love you, which is exactly what I know you were talking about a girl, but it was, yes, thank you.